everyone, my name's Susie Moore. I'm one of the Regional Development Officers for the RYA. I'm here today to take a look at how we might be able to plan to open up our club buildings when it is appropriate to do so within government guidance. So we're really looking to the future with the session this week. I'm here with two representatives from Draycote Sailing Club. We have Will Wicketer, who is one of the directors of the club, who also sits on the club committee as a Rear Commodore Sailing. Within his professional life, he also has a background with risk assessments and health and safety, and has done quite a lot of work with the RYA on some of our events down in Weymouth. Dave Rowe is also with us from the club, and he is the club manager. So Will, I'm just wondering, could you give us a quick overview of the nature of the setup at Draycote Sailing Club, so we've got a bit of context around some of the discussions later on.
Draycote Water Sailing Club is a inland reservoir based in the Midlands and is part of the Great Lakes. It has a large membership base where we have large member participation in club racing and youth and juniors. We also have a commercial element to the club where we run a training centre for RYA training courses, both powerboat and level 1 to 4. We also have a well-established squad and coaching element where squads such as Optimist, Toppers and such like come along and enjoy the venue and participate in using the water and the training rooms that we've got.
Thanks for that. So Draycott is... safe to say we can describe it as a large club with quite a professional aspect to its setup, and you're quite fortunate to have both volunteer and a staff workforce. I just want to pause on that for a moment and highlight that we really believe there's a lot of really good lessons within what Draycott has been up to recently, and that we hope that volunteer clubs that are run by the members for the members can take away those learnings and these examples of measures that can be put in place when it comes to opening up buildings. But we may need to just adapt them slightly to fit into your own setup. So looking at tweaking some of the examples because they are applicable to all clubs. It's just the management may need to be done in a slightly different way. So Will, the decision-making process that Draycott has gone through and is still going through is really interesting. Can you explain a little bit more about that for me, please?
So as part of the decision-making process for Draycott Water, once we had a situation where the club had to close down and the site, Severn Trent, closed the site and access to the site to the public and access to Draycott Water Sailing Club, we set up what we call a COVID committee, which is a small part of the committee, which consists of Dave, our club manager, myself as Rear Commodore Sail, our Commodore, Jeremy Atkins, and our Treasurer, Roger Webb. And we set up a small team so we could be flexible and able to respond to what at the beginning was very quick and almost seemingly daily updates that we had to respond to, either closing down elements of the club or such like. That committee meets on a regular basis. Initially it was daily, it's now more 2 or 3 times a week. But what became apparent when we got down to the situation of what we call phase 0, which is fully closed, was that once the government was talking about how we come out of the lockdown, we thought we needed to also think, how would we open the club? And this made us look at what RYA guidance was out and about, what was on the website, and speaking to Gareth Brooks. And we decided that the best way to actually do this, and it would aid communication with our members, is to pull together a roadmap of what each phase of reopening would look like. That roadmap consists of effectively 6 phases. Phase 0 being full lockdown and able to access site in any shape or form apart from basic staff undertaking maintenance, right through to stage 5, which is fully open and back to what we would consider to have been the old normal. And then between that we have a roadmap that sets out each stage that we would hope would open in that order as we go.
So the opening up of your club buildings is a little bit further down the roadmap than you are currently in this phased approach that you've just described. But I'd like to sort of jump to that future situation. And I'm just wondering, what areas of the government advice you're considering or are currently sort of considering in this area of opening up your club buildings? And how is this coming into your risk assessment process?
So as part of the roadmap, we then developed a risk assessment for each phase that we anticipate. And we can only sort of develop those risk assessments with the latest information that we get from the government, but also from our landlord, Severn Trent. So looking at the roadmap, we're looking at how we can at some point open up the club's buildings to members. Certainly as part of phase 1, we're allowing the opening up of the toilets and toilets only. And this is based on the fact that when we initially went down to lockdown at the beginning of the crisis, we shut the clubhouse completely. And this left us with pushing members into the Severn Trent Visitor Centre for toilets. This created extra risk for our members. And therefore we've taken the decision that we should maintain the toilets, but toilets only. Within the clubhouse at Draycote Water, we are blessed. Most of the time it's not a blessing, it's actually a problem. But we have 5 entry points, and that usually allows us a bit of a problem with security and making sure we've got coded doors in place. But in this situation, it allows us to plan very well, having a good flow of people and minimising our pinch points. So for phase 3, when we're opening up, we will look to how we can create those flows and minimise the pinch points around the building to maximise its use during any social distancing. One of the strategies that we're implementing, particularly at the start at phase 1 with the toilets, is a basic one-way system. This allows us to go in one door, go to the toilets, come out the toilet and go out of another door. A straightforward one-way system that also minimises touch points. These are points where members may touch a door handle, may touch a banister, may touch a tap, may touch a door lock on a toilet, a cubicle. These are key areas where you could potentially have the spread of the virus. So we're having to make sure that these are minimised. That's both by ensuring we have signage to remind people not to touch banisters, having doorways left open if they're not fire doors or not critical to the fire strategy, leaving doors open so they can be easily passed through without touching them, and also limiting the number of cubicles that are open and wash basins that are open. Remembering that you only can have, depending on the size of the toilets, 1, 2, 3 people in there to maintain social distancing. Therefore, you don't need every toilet. This also reduces the amount of cleaning that's needed to be done by our staff. So particularly around touch points, if we're doing cleaning of those points every hour, which is our intention, that's touching, making sure door handles and taps and such like are cleaned and thoroughly, then these are minimised to minimise time. So therefore allowing for an increase in frequency of that being conducted.
Now, I know that the use of changing rooms and toilets is high on clubs' list at the moment of how that's going to be managed. I'm just wondering, have you got any additional examples or any of the same measures being used in the change room toilet area of your buildings?
With regards to opening up our changing rooms, we're lucky in some ways, unlucky in others, that whilst we've been looking at it, we can maintain a one-way system through some changing rooms, particularly the larger male changing rooms. But we're going to have to look at how we can maintain social distancing or produce a one-way system through the female changing rooms. We've given this some thought, and of course, this very much hinges on whether we can use showers at the same time. when we open changing rooms, or where the changing rooms are just a flowing process to take off your wet gear and change for your car and go. It's a very difficult area. We'll wait for clear guidance on what we can open up and what we can't open up. But our intention is very much around a one-way system and clear social distancing within the changing rooms, therefore limiting the numbers. And how we manage that limiting numbers is being given some consideration by Dave, particularly around ticketing, or maybe fobs or armbands that are hanging up on the exterior of exterior of the building, particularly around the outside, so you can see how many people are in the changing rooms, whether there's space for you to enter those changing rooms. If there's a band or a token available, then you can go in. There is space. If there isn't, then you have to wait until someone coming out returns a band. And so there's different ways that we can try and stop that pinch points where someone's naturally walking into the changing rooms looking for space that isn't there.
So I'm just wondering what requirements, either from the government's guidance and future guidance and your own considerations, are you looking out for when you're looking to move from phase 2 of your plan to phase 3 of your roadmap, where the opening up of your club facilities comes in? Dave, it might be a question for you as a club manager there.
On the roadmap for Draycott, you can see that phase 3 shows us opening up most of our facilities at Draycott, albeit with some of the facilities offering a slightly reduced service. We've tied this in with an increase in the activities members can carry out, and also the start of our commercial RYA courses. To do this allows the additional income to cover the cost of bringing staff off furlough and the reintroduction of contract cleaners, while letting us provide a good service to our members, and also a service that we think our customers would expect when coming to visit the club.
So Dave, it would be great to understand some of the practical measures that you're considering putting into place when it comes to the reopening of your building, in relation to that government advice that we highlighted earlier, such as the flow of people around your club buildings, touch points and hygiene, and social distancing. So could we have a quick look around, your club building and how you're going to be managing the flow of people in and out of your building?
As we reopen the club, what we have looked at is how people are going to move through the club. We've looked at introducing one-way systems to reduce the crossover of people. We've also looked at reducing the high touch points. So we've looked at pinning open doors so people don't need to use keypads. We've walked through the process ourselves, looking at what we touch and highlighting areas that will be touched, so that we know that they need to go on our briefing for our cleaning.
Now, I'm aware that Draycott has an office area for its staff, and many other clubs also, have offices. So I'm just wondering whether there's anything additional that you're putting in place that we haven't already discussed for that office area of the club.
All areas of the club are going to have restrictions on how many people can be inside any one area at a time. So if we look at our waterside reception, we'll be looking at no more than one person and one member of staff inside the building at all. Toilets have 2 people maximum at any one time in the toilet area, and our office, we're looking at only one person at a time being in the office.
So Will, I'd like to come back to you with this question. Dave has mentioned cleaning there time and time again, and you mentioned the importance of the management of touch points and the hygiene around these. And so I'm just wondering how your club is looking to manage this moving forward.
The conducting of cleaning is twofold, really, from our point of view at Draycote Water. We have contracted cleaning staff who come in 3 times a week in normal circumstances. But we're going to have to look at more frequent cleaning of touch points in addition to that normal cleaning. But we're also going to have to look at the training of the staff to do that more frequent cleaning. Normally the contracted cleaning staff, that comes along with the staff being trained and knowledge of what products they're using, the right PPE that they've been given to do the job, and the training of that. For our staff, we're going to have to do all that ourselves. We're looking at how we can make sure that we describe to the staff exactly what needs to happen when they're doing the cleaning, how they do it, where they do it specifically, and how often they do it. So it's not just a matter of go into the toilets and do some cleaning, or go to the training room and clean it. It's what specifically needs cleaning on a more regular basis. It's those touch points, it's those areas where someone could have come into contact, whether that's touching of seats, banisters, taps, door handles, whatever it may be, but that cleaning. And then it's particularly important to provide staff with the right equipment and the right PPE, so they don't get things like dermatitis from cleaning products and in contact with those cleaning products on a regular basis. So gloves and such like are very important in those. So these processes not only need thinking through and the training provided and the PPE provided, but there's also a compliance issue. You need to make sure that the risk assessment is done and documented to back up that requirement.
So as we spoke about at the beginning of this video, the use of staff and contractors may not be something that all clubs can facilitate. So, Will, I'm just wondering, do you have any examples from Draycott where the cleaning has been done in a different way, maybe with an emphasis on members supporting this process?
So, whilst members of our workforce and team can come back and help with the regular cleaning of touch points and areas where members are in contact or likely to contract COVID-19, we also have areas where we can't control on a regular basis touch points, and we're asking our members to help support that process. A good example of this is our picnic tables and our club boats. We're going to make sure that through signage that members are aware that picnic tables aren't cleaned on a regular basis, and if they wish to use them for a picnic as a household that have come down to just use the water, then we would expect them to request cleaning equipment and clean those tables themselves, both before and after use, so it's ready for those next people or that next household that wishes to use it. So and that's being made quite clear in the in signage. The other example is our club boats. Again, it's about cleaning them afterwards. We've got a cleaning station for members to use to bring the boat after they've used it, and they can wash it down, make sure that all the points are best cleaned, and then before being put away.
So that's really similar to the cleaning stations that you see in supermarkets, and actually that's a really poignant point. We are out and about and we are trying to manage COVID within this country as a nation. And so we can be looking at our day-to-day lives and seeing how else others are managing the situation. Just going back to supermarkets there, the 2 metre lines for queues, if you find that's something that you need within your club, maybe going up to a kitchen service or, the entranceway. Finally, Will, I think this is probably a question for you. How are your membership and staff going to be aware of the additional controls that you're implementing?
So for us as a committee, communication is key. One of the things we don't wish to happen when we reopen to our members is that our staff are swamped with constant questions, with members coming to them face to face and requesting information about how they do things and why they do them, or trying to do things that we don't wish them to do. So part of this has been a really detailed communication process throughout. We've kept them informed about when and how we're reopening, when Severn Trent allow us to reopen. which we're hoping in the near future. And our intention is to publish the roadmap that we've developed, and also the risk assessment that sets out what we expect controls to be in and around the club. Now, these documents are not small. They're there also for our work staff and to make sure they're protected, and we've thought through everything. So we understand that they're quite laborious, and we don't expect everybody to read them. So Dave's initiative was to create a one-page poster which we can place on the website with the other documents if people want to read the detail, that highlights the do's and don'ts, and what's clearly open and what isn't available at each stage of the site reopening. And this allows for clear communication in one place. We're also going to undertake, when we have an open date from Severn Trent, we will also have a questions and answers situation through Zoom. So the COVID committee, as we call it, that'll be the Commodore, the Treasurer, Dave, our club manager, and myself, will have a Zoom session where members can come on, ask any questions about our risk assessments or our roadmap and how that's developing moving forward. That allows them to talk to us openly and honestly about what we're doing, and also allows them to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So we're trying all channels. That's social media, club website, but also question and answer session.
There's been a huge amount of information so far in this session, so I think I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me today, Will and David. Your insight has been really valuable. I'd just like to finish off the session by highlighting that next week's club development forums that are being delivered on a regional basis by the regional development officers is really focusing in on this area of the future opening of your club buildings and the considerations that you will need to put in place. So please do head to your regional web pages where you'll be able to book onto those sessions and join your regional development officer for a more in detailed conversation with other clubs on this subject.